last year, September, I'm a professor in the Peking University in China. When I was conducting a course at Peking University in Beijing, I gave 3 lectures to the student, beside many other meetings and assignments. On the first day of my visit, when I was traveling in a car from the hotel to the Peking University campus, I noticed something unique on the road. I saw that all the cars ended in only odd number digits. Every car was odd number digit, 01, 03, 05, like that it was going on. So I asked the Peking University host, many professors, they asked, why today I saw everywhere odd number cars only? Why? Professor replied, today only odd number cars are permitted to be driven. I asked why. The reason given to me was, my visit was coincided with the APEC, that means Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, 5 days. To prepare for the summit, Beijing has declared that only odd number permitted on the road on one day and even number on the following day. In this way, they removed the pollution from half of the cars during the period. They also imposed restriction on the heavy polluting industries to reduce the pollution during the period Pacific Leaders Conference. When I checked the pollution figures, I noticed that it had reduced to half during the period of the conference, making the city clean and healthier. Of course, friends, China can do that. And whether Sri Lanka and India, we can put such restriction, I don't know. Difficult to impose such a law. However, message I want to give you, when you come to this conference hall, every one of you would come in the bus or car. Remember, 1 liter of petrol or diesel generate 2 kilograms of carbon dioxide. The whole world generates about a year 30 gigatons of carbon dioxide. However, if through technology, through biofuels, through electric cars, we can remove the pollution for even half the total cars in our cities, we can also achieve a cleaner, greener, healthier ecosystem for all. That's what I was conveying to Honorable Minister. Today when I was looking out from my hotel window on the 19th floor, I saw a long jam of cars stuck on the Gali Road. It's called Gali Road, Gold Road. I wondered how much emission these cars would be causing even without moving much. This is a common sight almost every major city of the world, not only your city, our city also. Now we need to address this situation, as every liter of a petrol burned generate 2.3 kilogram of CO2, carbon dioxide, which harms the environment, everybody knows. Today when I am with all the experts in the domain, I would discuss some thoughts on the solution for such issue. I understand you have representatives of various industries, CEOs, and various government officials. So I am going to talk to you, address at this symposium on energy challenges in the knowledge economy in the beautiful city of Colombo. I want to talk to you. I am happy to know that this symposium is organized by my friend Ministry of Power and Energy, Sri Lanka, which envisages organizing the scientific knowledge base for plan implementation and will provide the forum for Sri Lankan and invited an expert in the field to discuss, debate, and share futuristic knowledge relevant to the challenges that the nation is facing in the evolving economy. Now, this is in line with the mega trend of our times, where steady supply of energy is being replaced by a new paradigm which recognizes two fundamentally new energy transformations: replacing oil with electricity in transportation, replacing high carbon finite supply coal and natural gas with renewable wind, solar, marine, nuclear and biomass energies for electricity production. The objective of the symposium is to facilitate a rich exchange of knowledge, I understand, among the energy policymakers, researchers, academia and industry who seek the solution to problems of energy, economy and sustainability of sources and the effectiveness in the energy use in the economy. It was visible just now when the Honourable Minister for Power talked about. Honourable Peter Heggs gave one information. I don't know how many of you noticed that information. He said the wealth of the village should remain in the villages. It's a challenging task for all the nation. Wealth of, for example, you have 12,000 villages in Sri Lanka. At no time you make it urban centers. And I am also against it partly. So it is essential. The villages' wealth should remain. That's what Professor Peter said. It's a beautiful statement. Now, such an exchange platform of knowledge, what you are doing today, is indeed the need of today. And I also learned for a few minutes. I'm sitting here. Every minute I was learning. When the earth faces many challenges due to man-made and natural causes, and humanity strive to keep their home planet safe and pollution. My greetings to all of you. I would like to share my thoughts on the topic SAARC Energy Independence Platform, because SAARC nation we are. Basically almost same culture, same environment, same way of life. And I felt we have to make it SAARC very active, like European Union Parliament. Today when I met your President and Prime Minister, that's the topic I discussed. Dear friends, I will share with you the topic I am going to talk next 15 minutes. SAARC Energy Independence Platform for livable planet Earth. Livable planet Earth. If the planet does not live, we cannot live. 7 billion people cannot live. So our major thrust is going to be how do you make our planet livable? Every day when you are generating CO2 and polluting, remember our various layer of atmosphere is get polluted. That's why topic I have selected, Livable Planet Earth SAARC Energy Independence Platform. Friends, I would like to share with you one important aspect of energy independence. I am propagator of energy independence, from energy security to energy independence. 86% of the total energy produced comes from fossil fuel today. Of course, a lot of politics also there. The fossil fuel lovers are there. And then around 14% comes from the renewable energy, 14%, and nuclear sector. In this situation, it is essential to find innovative methods to reduce the consumption of the electric power from fossil fuel and increase the deployment of a renewable energy system. I know geography of Sri Lanka. All round sea for you. Always sea will help you. And also sea power and wind power and energy. Sun is shining, India and Sri Lanka always shining. So in India, we are already working on adapting certain innovative methods to convert certain important segments for improving the efficiency of electric power usage from the fossil fuel and increase the use of renewable energy system. For example, India has 600 million mobile users. Now it may have become 800. And 250,000 cell phone towers. You are also having 250,000 cell phone towers we have in India. You will have less number, which consumes nearly 2 billion liters of diesel for power. It consumes 2 billion liters of diesel power. If we convert this installation to solar powered system, we save about $1.7 billion offset, $5 billion of CO2 emission and gain carbon credit. And the next, if we translation for 600 villages where 700 million people live into solar powered homes, I am promoter of solar powered homes and street lights, we may offset around 60% of the fossil fuel usage in that sector. In these two areas alone, we can make a big change. With this background of energy saving, in India I have been advocating to convert the cities into carbon neutral cities. When I visited Colombo a number of times. When I visit your city, and I feel, I may also suggest Energy Symposium Sri Lanka to adapt such experience, including transforming Colombo and other Sri Lankan cities into carbon neutral cities, which will create a new momentum in this mission globally. These are some of the innovative methods to reduce the consumption of fossil fuel usage and increase the deployment of renewable energy sources. I hope these steps will lead us towards achieving energy independence in a much faster way. Friends, I came from an island, Rameshwaram. I used to come to Talaimannar when I was a young student to see my uncle here in Anuradhapura. I come from island Rameshwaram in the southern part of India, not from far off from here. I was born in Rameshwaram, studied there, and lived with full connectivity during the last 83 years. I was asking myself what my island has taught me. You are a big island. I come from a small island. Great experience of sea travel, great experience of climbing over sandy hills, sailing in my brother's todi, that is fishing boat, and bringing boats full of seasonal tiny fishes. Buyers from many parts of the world used to queue up for getting such fresh fish at the seashore. Also, I have seen real life experience how my father built a passenger sailboat, about 40 passengers capacity. Part by part with two expert carpenters. He is the designer, but two carpenters helped him. When this boat was launched on a full moon day, it brought great joy in our family. This passenger boat was a source of income to our family and was responsible. Your sea and our sea almost same. This passenger boat was a source of income to our family and responsible for funding my education up to the college level. I have also seen this happiness transformed into great loss. When the heavy cyclone hit Rameshwaram Island in 60s, the same sailboat which gave happiness to our family went into pieces due to the fury of cyclone. But we all recovered fast. The great boatman of Rameshwaram Island was Janab Jainullah Abdeen, my father. Lived for 103 years and my mother 98 years. So friends, we are all children of the island. Lived near sea, lived on the sea, And my career as a rocket and missile technology for nearly 40 years was enriched by the Eastern Tumba and Western Sriharikota sea coast, both of them sea coast, Eastern sea coast. With my island home background, my career including my presidential visit to islands of my nation, visits of Iceland, Philippines, Sri Lanka, among many others. And with my presence here today in Sri Lanka, I was asking myself, what unique experience islands have taught me, which I can share with this great audience assembled here. I would like to recite a poem composed in Tamil during my visit at tsunami-affected Andaman Nicobar. Nicobar Island, we had a heavy loss during the tsunami. And I was talking to the citizen who got affected by tsunami in Nicobar, how to talk to them. I cannot make a big speech. So I gave a poem in Tamil that is called Sea Waves. The meaning is, we are children of sea waves. Sri Lanka and part of our three sides, we are surrounded in India. So we three part of it, and we are the children of, the poem goes like this: we are the children of sea waves. Sea waves are our friends. When they become angry, sea waves give us challenges. God has given us courage to challenge the sea waves, and we succeed when God for us, who can be against? Of course, tsunami affected Sri Lanka also partly. So when I visited Iceland recently, which I was well known for volcanoes, Iceland well known for volcanoes and earthquakes, I could see the islanders have learned to evolve a lifestyle to live happily and meet the challenges whenever it comes. This volcanic island is blessed with hot springs. Volcanic island is blessed with hot springs. The steam of hot spring is converted into electricity, and the hot water is supplied for heating houses and buildings throughout the island, Iceland. The technology has been developed to make their lives adequately safe through the research efforts for forecasting the occurrence of volcanoes and earthquakes well before they occur. This island nation, Iceland, known for the highest per capita income in Europe. This income from high sea fishing. High sea fishing using large fishing trawlers, which has a provision for storing fresh fish, processing the fish, packaging and marketing in the high sea itself. Apart from fishing contribution, per capita income comes from IT and pharma industry in Iceland. Also, with the frequent occurrence of natural disasters like volcano eruption and earthquake, at any time of place, the capital city, Reykjavik, has a disaster management control center which functions round the clock and provide disaster management support and prepare the nation through its nationwide network. While Philippines is often affected by nature's fury like that, similarly I witnessed. It is all well known that islanders throughout the world have lived a very organized life, have mastered the art of self-contained life styles in order to overcome the possible isolation created by inaccessibility. An island's life is completely twinned with the nature. They have learned well to manage as they go to terms of food, energy and water. Friend, the islanders very often live by abundant resources that the sea provides them and use the natural beauty of their island as a destination for many tourists to throng these places. Now I am come to the subject. As you are aware, there is a continuous depletion of fossil material, derived oil, gas, and also after a few hundred years, few decades, oil will vanish, few hundred years, coal reserves as predicted by World Energy Forum. Also, there is a continuous fluctuation of the cost of crude oil. In fact, presence of oil in the nation and business of the oil is becoming a liability to the oil nation instead of prosperity for the reasons of changing geopolitical dimension. It led to many wars which the world is witnessing so far. This changing scenario has made me to think energy independence. Inequality in the per capita consumption of the power leads to unsustainable development. Hence, for every nation, it is imperative to achieve energy independence. Every nation, we have to achieve, imperative to achieve energy independence from fossil fuel. The world consumes more than 91 million barrels of petroleum per day. Collectively in the world, we are not only paying for the coal of fuel, but also paying for the continuous environment degradation. The solution to this problem is achieving energy independence by framing an integrated policy action for climate change mitigation in energy. Let me share some thoughts about the global energy independence by 2030, another 15 years' time. Many countries have to go for the energy independence, which is just 15 years away. The Energy Vision 2030 has three-dimensional. First is to ensure the affordability in access to quality energy for all. Second is to ensure that the dependence on depleting fossil fuels is minimized, thereby giving stability to energy supply. Third, it has to be balanced against the environment aspect by stressing the development of green energy, thereby giving cleanliness in our energy. If you look at the source of energy and its consumption for typical nation, according to Professor Ed Fredkin, we can get ample clues for energy independence. Petroleum, natural gas and coal together contribute to nearly 85% of the total energy produced today. The contribution for renewable energy, nuclear are 6.1 and 8.1. On the consumption front, electric power still contributes to 39%, while industrial transportation, road transportation contribute 20% and 28% of the consumption. Today, it looks like a distant dream to increase the source of energy from nuclear, biofuel, renewables to about 50%, make them economical. Hence, any policy on energy independence should concentrate more on energy efficiency, particularly in the energy consumed in the transportation, industrial, electric power generation, which between the consume more than 88% of the energy. The energy independence vision has to be global in its implementation and priority to all nations in the world. Number one, improving energy efficiency. Number two, dependence on fossil fuel as a primary energy source to be brought under 50% in 10 years' time. Replacement of a petroleum as a primary fuel source for transport by less carbon emitting or completely carbon neutral renewable fuels. This would require an urgent thrust on research, development and deployment of solutions such as solar, wind, hydro, biofuel, nuclear and other forms of green energy. Reducing net emission per unit energy consumption to half of the current rate, which means from the current 1.3 kg of CO2 per watt of a power per year to less than half, 0.65 kilogram of CO2 per watt of power per year. Promoting distributed energy system for a small size for the domestic use of mid sizes in the few megawatt range for industrial use using solar, bio and wood gasification and other locally relevant forms of renewable energy sources. Promotion of rooftop based solar power generation, which I am advocating in my country, thereby make every household self-reliant in its energy equipment. International collaboration promoting green energy development methods with seamless flow of ideas and technologies. Friends, the alternate sources energy, I have solar power, very obvious. The 100 megawatt size small solar power station, number of them we have to build in every part of the country. The potential of the solar energy on the global arena is immense. It is documented that concentrating in solar power plants built on less than 0.3% of the desert of North Africa and in Middle East to generate entire European region. Poverty and Europe. India has launched a Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Power Mission for generating 20,000 megawatt of power through solar energy by year 2020. Now they have doubled it now. This program is implemented in 3 stages. The next is nuclear power. Nuclear power generation has been given the thrust by use of uranium-based fuel. However, there will be manifold requirement due to increase in nuclear power generation, even to attain a reasonable degree of energy independence. We need to develop technologies for a wider spectrum of fissile material found around the world. For example, India alone has 1/4 of the world's thorium reserves. Sri Lanka, with its long coastal line, may have a thorium reserves and reserves of other fissile material which can be a source of power generation in the future. Now friends, our target of 2030 should be to increase the combined contribution of nuclear renewable resources from its present level of 14% to 45%. The increasing demand of energy that is dedicated by the economic growth should be met by increasing efficiency of energy usage, particularly transportation, electric power generation. Use of hydrogen is another alternative. Now, energy independence as a global mission. Now let me explain how India has used hard cooperation, that is between the nation. Let me share an example. Pan-African E-Network, International Social Responsibility. During the year 2003 and 2004, as the President of India, I visited African countries such as Sudan, Tanzania, Zanzibar, South Africa. I addressed the Pan-African Parliament on 16 September 2004 at Johannesburg, South Africa, which was attended by heads of 53 member countries of African Union. Based on my study of the communication, healthcare and education needs of the African countries, I proposed to the Parliament, African Parliament, concept of creating Pan-African E-Network for providing seamless integrated satellite, fiber optic and wireless networking connecting 53 African nations. This initiative was accepted by the African Union at Right Project fulfilled the MDG of Africa. The Pan-African E-Network project was estimated to cost out $125 million for India, and it has gone to universities, hospitals, and 53 African nations almost connected now. And now friends, Pan-African E-Network is an enabler which is cascading the effect on the socio-economic development of many developing nations. It is possible for India with core competence in multiple fields to work with many countries in a joint venture mode for bringing together multiple core competences of partnering nations. Now I am going to finally conclude with SAARC Energy Independence Platforms. I call it SAARC Energy Independence. That means no fossil fuels, SAARC Energy Independence. The challenge of reducing our dependence on fossil fuel and conserving the environment is a global challenge, which would necessarily require a global platform where different nations can bring their core competencies to achieve the cost-effective product and services to an international audience. Energy independence thus has to be a shared mission. All participating countries and societies, each working according to their core competence. Let me visualize one such platform which can emanate between India and Sri Lanka and all the SAARC nations, which together represent 1/5 of the humanity, cover all bio and climate zones, represent diversity of geographies and culture. I call it SAARC Energy Platform. I was reading about the various initiatives in green energy sector which have been undertaken by Sri Lanka. A booklet, nice booklet has come. including various activities like research, finance, execution, maintenance of clean source of energy. Similarly, in India, we are pursuing the various missions from both public and private sector towards achieving energy independence. These include development and deployment of solar, wind, nuclear, hydel, and you are very good in hydel also, and bio-based sources of power at both domestic and commercial levels. Can all these initiatives from India and Sri Lanka and other SAARC nations be brought together at a common knowledge sharing platform, synergized according to the unique core competencies and marketed across diverse arenas? Such an integrated international platform for research, development, implementation solution for energy independence using green sources need to be evolved. Let me share some thoughts about the areas of operation SAARC Energy Independence Platform, which will facilitate the achievement of energy independence for all the SAARC nations by 2030, another 15 years' time. First one, high circulation, low intensity products. The first segment of the product which would come out of the venture would be domestic application of or low intensity commercial application system, which could enlarge scale and cost effective manner. India, with 750 million rural population and with a growing energy demand, has a huge market for such cost effective green energy devices. Joint research and development are the key aspects. Second one, high energy green power plants. One of the biggest challenge in green source of power is the need to develop better efficiency in all weather robustness. Solar cells today have an efficiency less than 30%, which should be improved. SAARC Energy Independent Platform, through the joint partnership of SAARC governments, can consider creating a research fund of $100 million so that these which can support innovative product development in academic institutions, research laboratories and private sector. The next one, establishing provide green practices. SAARC Energy Independent Platform will also act as a knowledge giver to all these public, private sector, industrial, commercial units. The next one, integrated products. The SAARC Energy Independence Platform can also be a pioneer in integrating key societal application with green energy requirements. Then finally, I have recommended SAARC Think Tank. The core competence of experience of each country can be synergized in activities like sharing accurate meteorological prediction, disaster prevention and mitigation efforts. From thus the SAARC Energy Independent Platform 2030 will be a mission mode partnership with proper funding, which could stimulate research, development, marketing, deployment and maintenance of a customized and cost-effective solution. So friends, in conclusion, green energy mission for Sri Lanka. Friends, historically there has been a distinct correlation between energy availability and the economic prosperity of a nation or a society. In the future, the emerging trend is that there is a strong bond between the quality of energy and the environment. Keeping in this mind, I would like to suggest the following mission which can be taken up by the government and private sector of Sri Lanka. Number one, Sri Lanka should have a clean energy mission to achieve before 2030. Fortunately, I saw a document you have for graduating from the fossil fuel to renewable energy. Second one, India is busy in establishing a sustainable development system, particularly for the development of 600,000 villages through what is called PURA, providing urban amenities rural area. Sri Lanka has got 14,000 villages. I am sure Sri Lanka can be a partner in India's sustainable development. They can be spread to Sri Lanka. It is indeed an economic proposition related to green technology and application. India has launched 2 ocean satellites to study dynamics of sea and atmosphere. Scientists and technologists and strategic both countries, India and Sri Lanka, can plan and build jointly an ocean satellite between India and Sri Lanka. This ocean satellite can be a research system for planning execution of green nation, green atmosphere linking oceans of our regions. I visualize our both nations investing research and development mission for green home, green fuel, green transport system, and above all green habitat for the millions of people. This can come about also a strong academic tie-up between the nations. Sri Lanka can pioneer work on developing biofuel from coconut oil or jatropha to power the transportation sector. Transport sector releases a lot of CO2. India has been working in this domain for quite some time with some breakthrough. Recently an experiment proved to produce 760 liters of biofuel from 10,000 coconuts, which can replace the diesel in standard cars. The cost of generating this coconut biofuel is expected to be about $0.50 per liter. I am sure the Energy Symposium of Sri Lanka today, what we are having, will certainly succeed its clean energy mission and creation of a green jobs. The present climate change consideration is posing a great challenge to the society as a whole, and I am confident collectively we will find innovative solution to the global problem through SAARC Energy Independence Platform. I am sure with our collective vision and action, India and Sri Lanka, we can ensure prosperity without poverty, peace without fear of war, and a happy place to the life of all citizens of the nation. My best wishes for all your future endeavors. May God bless you all, friends.